everybody, on today's video we're going to go over how to spool a Centerpin reel. So there's many different types of reels. There's shallow spool reels which don't need any backing. With this reel you can put on 200 yards of 8 to 10 pound test, no problem. Some reels have a deeper spool, so we're going to add some backing to that before we do your line. People have asked, is backing necessary on a Centerpin? The old thought was you had to put backing so the reel didn't warp. Those were older reels that weren't made out of a solid block of aluminum. The reels these days are solid. The spools aren't known to warp, so you don't need to put backing on for any safety reasons. The other thing people like to do is they put backing on for different colors. I mean, if you can see here, there's a little darker green to the lighter moss green of the P line we'll run on here. But, a lot of guys will put on different color backings to match, say, the rod wraps. You know what I mean? You can make it colorful. So that's more or less the reason that most people do backing these days. A lot of the reels today, the spools are made super thin, so there's no need for that. You don't need to put it on. Some of the older spools, like, say, Islander, for example, had a really deep spool. You had to put backing, otherwise you were putting on hundreds and hundreds of yards of line. When it comes to line, a copolymer most people find is the best because it has a little bit of a floating property. So it keeps your line up on top of the water. It's not sinking down, catch and drag. Personally, I run 8 or 10 pound test when I'm float fishing. I don't want a heavy line. Heavier the line, more drag in the water. When you put your shot pattern on your line, because it's thicker, it's going to catch more water, which is not going to get down as quickly. So you have to add more weight to get the same depth. So my preferred line is going to be CXX 8 pound by P line. In the fall, when the fish are hot, we got to run a little heavier leader, bigger water. Might bump that up to 10 pound. But the heavier the line, besides being thicker, so cutting through the water isn't as effective, it also has more memory. So when you're casting, especially if you're doing any type of side casting, you're going to get more twist. So the lighter line and more supple line is better, a little softer, you get the memory to it. Wintertime fishing, we're running 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 pound leader at the heaviest, so that's where 8 pound test. And even if you ran an 8 pound test, you have a knot on your hook, knot on your swivel. That's your leader, has 2 knots. Your main line has 1 knot, and hopefully that's it. If you're going to have a knot fail with 8 and 8, hopefully it's your leader. And if there's a nick in your main line breaks, I don't think it matters whether your leader was 4 or 8. Once it's nicked, it's thinner. It's not going to be as strong. So I typically don't run the same pound leader as I do with my main line. So most of the time I'm fishing less than 8 pound test. That's where 8 pound test gets me through most of the time. Now, in the dead of winter, we're fishing real cold, low water. I'll run 6 pound test on my float rod. On that, I run 6 pound CXX. It's really strong. It's really thin, gets me down. But when I'm doing that, I'm usually fishing 4 pound test or lighter. So another key to when you're spooling your Centerpin, because like a conventional reel, the line goes on round, comes off sideways if you're casting side, which you want to learn to get away from. Hopefully, cut down a line twist. But the key to spooling it is you want your line to feed off this way. So you want to have someone hold this for you as you're reeling it on. You don't want to lay your spool down and have the line coil off like you would a spinning reel. If you coil it off like a spinning reel, that's going to put twist in your line. It's going to have the memory. So when it wants to come off the reel, it's going to want to come off and have a lot of memory and twist. So you want that line to come off the spool straight, right? You want to come off the same way it would go back on, reeling it on. So that's another key to spooling your reel, to avoid having twist. Guys, I hope this just helps you out when you're respooling your reel. I mean, we were talking about it today. This video came about. My client today was spooling his reel before our trip, and he had some questions, and he looked around, couldn't find a lot of info quick, so he kind of brought it up to me. Just thought had some questions. I thought it'd be a great way to just go over some quick steps on how to spool it. Just a little refresher course before you guys get out on the water. Hopefully this helps you out and cuts down your learning curve, and good luck.